Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I am really excited to bring you the first official portrait tutorial here on my channel. I started drawing portraits a few weeks ago and I drew this baby in pastels several weeks ago now, but I didn't really know what to do with this video because I wasn't overly happy with the final drawing. But I am a firm believer that just because you aren't happy with your artwork doesn't mean that you can't learn and grow from it. So I looked at this drawing and the one thing I was really happy with was the skin tones and how smooth and soft the blending was that I got with pastels. And I did actually upload a photo of this drawing onto Instagram, and a couple of people actually asked me to do a tutorial on how I got such nice skin and how I blended out the pastels so well as well. So although this drawing isn't the best, I still want to use this as an in-depth tutorial on skin tones. So before I jump into this tutorial, let's just run through those materials that I'm using. And we'll start with the pencils. So I am using the Stabilo Carbothello pastel pencils, and I have the set of 60 pencils, but obviously I only used a few for this drawing tutorial. So the pencils don't actually have names like with the Faber polychromos or Prismacolors, but they are numbered. So I will leave the numbers of the pencils I used in the description box down below if you want to have a go at practicing picking colours for lighter skin, or if you're thinking about buying these pencils. A couple of people have asked me if I'm using pan pastels or soft pastels like the Unison soft pastels, and at the moment I am just sticking to the Carbothello pastel pencils just whilst I'm practicing and improving on my pastel skills. But I am saving up for the Unison soft pastels, and when I get them I am fully intending on using them for tutorials. Okay, so now for paper, I am using the Clairefontaine pastel mat paper, and it's a really thick paper. I think it's 360 GSM, and I got the block of paper and you get about 4 different paper gradients. So this was the white paper that I drew on, but you can get paper colours in white, beige, grey and black, I believe. And as I said, it is really thick, but it also has a bit of a gritty and rough texture to it, so a bit like sandpaper, but not as rough. So it is slightly a different textured paper to what I am used to. I have listed all the other materials as well as my recording equipment and editing software, so if you want to check that out, it is all listed down below for you guys. But anyway, let's get on with the fun part and the main part of this tutorial. Okay, so there are several things I want to talk about when you are drawing portraits in pastels, and there are a few tips I have for picking the right colours, tones, how to blend the pencils, how to get smooth textures and so on. So the first thing I'll talk about is the colours you get in this set and which colours are best for skin tones. So as I said, this is a set of 60 pencils, so compared to Prismacolors, which the largest set is 150, it is a lot less than that set. And I would say that of those 60 pencils, 30 are quite vibrant and bright colours like blues, purples, greens, and the other half are more natural and earthy and fleshy tones. So there's not loads and loads of colours to choose from, but don't forget that if you use pencils together you can get so many more different hues and tones, perfect for skin. So I don't really feel like you are limited in colours with these pencils. So a top tip I have for picking the right colours is actually by doing swatches with these pencils. So before you start a drawing, get a scrap bit of paper and swatch any colours you think might be suitable for skin tones. Write the numbers of the pencil next to each swatch so you know exactly what swatch matches each pencil. Then what I think is a really good idea is to start to combine some of those colours together. So say you had a white pencil and a flesh coloured pencil, mix those together and create a new swatch, and write down what pencils you used to create that swatch, and do that for all the skin tone pencils. And you can even mix 3 or 4 pencils together together as well to get even darker tones or slightly different complexions. So colour swatching before you start any drawing in pastels is definitely my top tip, and honestly it has helped me so much with picking the right colours for skin tones when I'm using pastels. And I did colour swatches for lots of different skin tones as well, so I didn't just do colour swatches for light skin, I also did colour swatches for darker skin too, and it just made my life so much easier. So now I'm going to talk about what I'm actually doing and how I'm working on the skin tones. So what I like to do, and this isn't just with pastels, this is with coloured pencils as well, is I like to work in layers. So every portrait I do, I work in layers, and that's the same with animals too. So what I mean by that is I build up on all the skin tones and complexion by using layers. What I do is I start with lighter pencils and I just shade in a few initial layers of the lighter pencils and slowly start to build up on those values by adding in some darker tones for the shadows and any little creases in the eyes or the face. And I do also like to contour the face as well. So when I look at a face, I look at where the highlights are in the face. Most of the time the highlights are on the tip of the nose, the cheeks and the forehead. So that's where I'll add my lightest tones in. And then I'll contour the face with some darker tones. So where the face will be more shadowed and darker, so for example with the top of the lip, there's a bit of shadow above the lip and under the nose as well. So it is really important that you do work in layers, so you build up your values from light to dark, you preserve those highlights and you get in some shadows, darker values and a transition in tone, as well as lots of different hues in the skin as well, because there are so many different hues in skin. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about my techniques for drawing in the skin, and as I said, there have been a few people asking me how I got such soft and subtle blending, and the thing with pastels is they are a very soft and loose medium, so they are even much more softer than wax pencils such as the luminance or Prismacolor pencils, and because of that pastels are so easy to blend. So what I do is I use the pencils and I will just mainly shade in lots of different colours for the skin. So I start with some lighter colours and then contour some darker tones in as well, and when I start to fill in the paper grain I will gently start blending all of that powder out with my fingers. So it's really important that you have clean hands for the blending, and I find the best way to blend is by moving your fingers in circular motions. So circular motions just really helps to create that smooth and soft blending, and if you just moved your fingers back and forth it will create really horrible marks and stop and start lines. So circular motions are the best way to blend. I sort of blend between layers as well, and what you will find is that at first the pencils don't blend that well, so you'll start to see some pencil lines showing through, but the more layers that you create, the easier it will be to blend the skin tones out. So that's another reason why layers are so important. So because you add more pastel pencils down, it creates more residue from the pastels. So as I said, pastels are a really loose medium, so they will create a lot of powder and residue. So the more layers that you add, the easier it will be for blending. So you can see now just how easy it is for me to blend out those layers because I have a lot of powder down onto the paper, so every time I blend with my fingers the skin tones become even softer. Okay, so obviously blending with your fingers and creating those layers for the skin is really important to create those realistic and soft skin complexions, but it's also really important that you use your pencils in the correct way too, because some artists have had issues with the pencils scratching their paper and you don't want that happening because it can damage your piece. So a great tip I have to minimise scratching or ripping the paper with your pencils is by using the side of the pencil and not the tip of the pencil. So what I do is I lightly shade in blocks of colour to the paper and I avoid using the tip of the pencil so that I don't concentrate too much pressure down to the paper. So when you use the side of a pencil, what this does is number one, it fills in more of the paper grain and a lot quicker than just using the tip of the pencil, and number two, it creates that even distribution of pencil, so you aren't going to end up with uneven pressure or really intense patches on some parts of the skin. Everything will just look natural and realistic. So one of the main reasons why I love pastel pencils so much is because they are so easy to work in terms of how they lay down and how easy it is to overlay colours as well. So as I said, they are such a soft medium to work in, so for babies and children in particular, I love using pastels because you can create such smooth and delicate skin, whereas sometimes with coloured pencils you can get wax bloom or pencil marks, and you don't get that at all with pastels. So I would definitely say that if you are someone who loves drawing babies or children, then pastels are a really good medium to use because of their softness and how flawless you can get the skin looking. So it's almost like that airbrushed feel. Also, as I said earlier, pastels can be mixed together to create new shades of colour, so just because there's only a few shades of colour suitable for skin tones, it doesn't mean that you should just limit yourself to those colours. So you can create so many different hues for skin just by mixing colours together, and some of the tones I've created just by mixing colours together are just so gorgeous. And I did also mix in some vibrant tones as well, so I also mixed in some purples and pinks for the skin too, and you can get such beautiful results just by mixing colours. Another thing I love about pastels is that it is so easy to overlay colours. So obviously, as I've just said, for colour mixing that's perfect, but you can also overlay lighter tones on top of dark tones, and it's so easy to do that, unlike with coloured pencils where it can be so hard to overlay lighter tones on top of dark tones. So with this baby, for example, it's so easy for me to lighten up any part of the skin I want to just by using a white pencil, because the lighter tones go straight over the darker tones. So for example, on the forehead and parts of the baby's body, I just overlaid white pencil and lightened up that whole area. So again, pastels are great for that because they allow you to adjust the values and contrast in drawings. So those are just a few tips I have to help you with picking the right colours for skin using pastel pencils, and also for the blending. And I just wanted to mention something important before I end this tutorial and just quickly talk about the light fastness for these pencils. So the Stabilo Carbothello pastel pencils don't have the greatest light fast rating, so that means quite a few of these pencils won't be very resistant to fading in natural light. So if you are someone who wants to create pastel drawings as a live-in, so do commissions in pastels using these pencils, just be careful with the light fast ratings. But anyway, that is it. I really hope that you did enjoy this tutorial just as much as I enjoyed making this one. I really enjoyed giving portraits a go, and I'm looking forward to creating more tutorials and practicing with them as time goes on. If you are new around here and this is the first video of mine that you have seen, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update from me. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in my next one. Bye guys!